Our society remembers Susan B. Anthony. That's the person I picked for uh, my topic of discussion here. They remember her as a champion for women's rights, but what people don't know is that she championed for a lot of other causes during the 19th century and the early of 20th century, to include abolishing slavery and also women's rights, and just championed for the overall equal rights of human beings and the ethical treatment of all human beings in the country. Her humble beginnings started with small Quaker values, which taught her to basically work hard, take care of her family, and essentially, it was the drive that she was given to fight for social causes based on her father's influence, as they started getting involved in the abolitionist movement, or the abolishment of slavery, and that movement altogether. So she fought pretty hard for all kinds of different social issues, like ending slavery, fighting for equal rights, especially for women to be heard in our country's politics. She had a hard time getting her voice heard, though, based on the temperance movement. That was when the first time she realized that she needed to fight harder for her voice and for the right of women's voices to be heard, because she was not allowed to talk for a cause that she thought was very dear to her, which was the temperance movement, which basically the movement to stop or advocate for the moderate consumption of alcohol, or the absence of drinking alcohol in our country. So that basically helped her, or basically motivated her to fight harder for her voice to be heard, along with the help of Elizabeth Stanton, who both of them together basically fought for overall equals women's rights. So what is the link between abolishing slavery and the women's suffrage movement, or suffragist movement? Well, basically, what the politicians realize in the North and in the South is that once the 13th Amendment was passed, which was the Emancipation Proclamation that freed all slaves, passing or trying to advocate for the 14th Amendment to allow all human beings, or all people, to vote was not in the best interest of the politicians, because the Democratic South, they realized, or correction, the Republican North realized if all women and all slaves were allowed, or free slaves were allowed to vote, then Democratic women of the South would vote. The white women would vote for, obviously, the Democratic South. And then, of course, the South realized that the Republican North, the free black slave, would vote in favor for the Republican Party in the North. So basically, when the 14th Amendment was passed, free black male slaves were basically the only ones allowed to vote, but they had no real interest or investment in women's rights, or the plight of women's suffrage movement. This basically motivated Susan B. Anthony to fight harder for not only to abolish slavery, or in just the best interest of all slaves, but to continue fighting for women's rights and the women's rights to vote, which was like pretty much the last cause that she tried to champion for. And she struggled very hard after a long battle and a long struggle. After she died in 1906, about 14 years later in 1920, the Susan B. Anthony Amendment, which was the 19th Amendment, was eventually passed, giving women the right to vote. But essentially there was a compromise. Yes, white women were allowed to vote, but black women were still disenfranchised from voting, through heinous acts, especially in the South. So, the struggle was still going on, but obviously Susan B. Anthony's contributions to American society through abolishing slavery and the rights for women to vote is a key essential part of history that has impacted our society to this day. And she was a great individual for that altogether. And thank you.